you hear the phrase creative services and your first thought is, I'm not a creative director, that's a good thing, because most people misunderstand what creative services actually means. Creative services is not a fancy agency department. It's not a brainstorm cave. It's simply structured problem solving that helps your client communicate clearly. And for video production companies, it's how you stop being treated like a vendor and more like a partner. If you're new here, my name's Adam, and this is the second video in a 5-video series where we talk through the structure of the modern video production company, the industry shifts, and how to navigate the changing landscape. I've owned a production company for over a decade, and we started taking on creative responsibility naturally because we enjoyed it. It was always at the center of what we liked doing. But early on, we made a mistake and we did creative work without labeling it, without packaging it, and without charging correctly, and in some cases, without charging at all. We left a boatload of money on the table, and even though we gained experience, if I was doing it all over again, I'd definitely do things differently. Today, I want to help you avoid that, and in the process, help you make more money. So creative services for a production company is everything that happens before pre-production. And just for the sake of clarity, I'm defining pre-production as the logistical tasks that happen in order to prepare for a shoot. Creative services are the tasks that happen before pre-production can even start. The reason I'm defining this is because I've seen a lot of companies define pre-production as everything that happens prior to the production phase and include creative services in that pre-production umbrella, when actually that's not how we need to be viewing things here. If we break creative services away from pre-production, that psychologically allows us to look at things differently and price it as separate things in our estimates and invoices. So we'll define creative services in this instance as the work that helps a client solve a communication problem they couldn't solve internally. Your job is to solve it in a structured, presentable way. And I want to bring emphasis to the word presentable here. Oftentimes, us as creatives can figure out a creative solution in our head, but struggle when it comes to articulating those creative services in a way that's conducive to business-to-business relationships. So if you have trouble communicating creative solutions, perhaps this is something that you can focus on over the next few months, taking those ideas and articulating them in a more understandable way while still staying true to those creative ideas and solutions that you've generated. So let's break this down. There are 3 core components that you can focus on that will allow you to predictably structure your approach to creative services as an added offering to your clients, helping position yourselves as a trusted partner rather than just another vendor. The first is the discovery process. Discovery is understanding the brand, the audience, the objective, and the context before ever touching a camera. The deeper you go, the better the understanding you will have and the more trust that you will have in the eyes of your client. The first layer has nothing to do with the specific video or project yet. The goal here is to understand the company at a deep level so we're not just guessing, assuming, or projecting our own creative taste onto an already established brand. Before we ever talk about deliverables, we need to have a strong foundation of who the company is and how they want to show up in the world. This phase gives us context, it creates alignment, and it prevents us from creating something that looks good but just feels wrong. At this stage, we're trying to understand things like, who is the company? Like, really? Why do they exist beyond making money? What do they stand for? What values actually guide the decisions in the organization? We want to understand the brand voice in a real, practical way. Are they formal or casual? Are they confident or understated? Are they bold or conservative, playful or serious? We also want to understand what the brand is not. What tones do we need to avoid? What messaging has fallen flat in the past? What creative decisions are completely off limits? This is all important information. Some of the questions that you might ask in this phase are, how would you describe your brand to someone who's never heard of you? What words should people associate with your company after interacting with it? What words should they never associate with you? Who are your competitors and how do you want to feel different to them? What kind of companies or brands do you admire and aspire to be like and why? How do you currently communicate with your audience? What's worked well in the past from a brand perspective? And do you have any examples of something that felt misaligned or uncomfortable in the past? This phase gives us a base level understanding of the brand. It ensures that anything that we create later feels intentional, aligned, and authentic to who the company actually is. Without this step, creative work becomes guesswork. And then once we fully understand the company, we can then shift to the second layer of discovery. This phase is focused specifically on the project or deliverable that the client is actually asking and coming to you for. Now, we're asking questions about the intent, outcomes, and execution. The most important thing that we want to clarify here is what the video actually needs to do. Not what it needs to look like, but what it needs to accomplish. At this stage, we're asking questions like, what does the video need to do? Is it meant to build awareness, change perception, or drive action? Is it a top-of-funnel brand piece or a bottom-of-funnel conversion asset? Who is this video for? Is the audience familiar with the brand, or is it seeing it for the first time? What problem are they trying to solve when they encounter this video? Where will this video live? Is it for a website, paid ads, social media, internal use, or for sales? Will people encounter this video intentionally or passively? What's worked and what hasn't? Have they tried similar videos in the past? What results did those videos produce? And what lessons were learned? What constraints do we need to work within? Timeline, budget, internal approvals, legal considerations, brand guidelines, and finally, how does this project connect back to the brand? Does this video need to feel consistent with existing content, or is it meant to signal a shift? Are we reinforcing a known message or introducing something new? This phase allows us to design the right solution for the right problem. And without this step, production becomes reactive. And with this step, production becomes intentional. Now, it's probably going to become clear that some of these answers have already been communicated in your initial back and forth over email and initial calls, but these are just example questions that if you're working in the dark and maybe you don't have the information yet, it's a good starting point. You would just tailor them to your tone and voice as well. Most production companies blend these two discovery layers together or completely skip the first one. When that happens, they end up solving the wrong problem, creating work that looks good but doesn't perform, or frustrating the client because something feels off even when they can't articulate why. So by separating brand discovery from project discovery, we reduce the creative risk, increase client confidence, create cleaner concepts, improve outcomes, and position ourselves as a strategic partner and not just a production vendor. This separation is just one of the simplest ways that you can elevate how your company operates and how clients perceive your value. If you skip the full discovery, you're guessing, and guessing is expensive. The second component is concept development, and this is where you translate your discovery into direction, and not random ideas, actual direction. This can include a creative brief, mood boards, references, a narrative structure, script beats, and storyboards, etc., etc. The goal here is not to impress other creatives. The goal is to give your client the confidence that you know what you're building before you've even built it. And this is highly valuable, skilled work that takes a lot of time, and you should be paid for this type of service. I often see production companies including this as part of the cost of production, and they often wonder why they feel like they've given the world to the client and they've barely made any money. If the client was able to do this themselves, they would have done it themselves. They're coming to you as a resource to execute on something that they were unable to execute internally, and you should be compensated for that. The third component is messaging and scripting. This is turning the concept into words and structure. Scripts, talking points, interviews, on-screen text, call to action. You don't need to be a novelist, you just need to be clear. And if writing isn't your strength, that's fine. You can and should find a freelance copywriter while still leading the strategy and direction. And a mistake that I see a lot is overthinking creativity. I see a lot of work out there that's clearly chosen novelty over logic, creative boldness for the sake of being bold. And I'm not here to stifle anyone's creativity. I love creative, I love new creative and seeing something that fits. But if that creativity doesn't fit the brand, then it doesn't work. Sometimes the most effective creative is subtle, especially for established brands. Your job is not always to scratch your creative itch. Your job is to solve the client's problem. And don't worry, there will be projects that come along that will allow you to go full-blown creative. The key here is determining what projects call for that and which ones require a softer touch. And the truth is, most of you will already be doing parts of this. Discovery questions, scripting, directing talent, messaging, structuring, mood boards, reference videos. I get that this is not groundbreaking stuff, but I do know a lot of companies are doing this very quietly. And when you do that, you give away the most valuable part of the process and you start to compete on price for production. And that is backwards. So here's how you can package it clearly. You can offer 3 entry points: a discovery sprint, a creative development package, and a full creative partner project that includes production. You're not forcing every client into the biggest option. You're proving that thinking has value. Creative services is not you pretending to be an agency. It's formalizing the thinking that you're already doing and charging for it, because you deserve that. Okay, that's it for this one. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can follow along for the rest of the videos in this series. This is going to be a 5-video series in total. This is the second one, so subscribe, like the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.